Hi, my name is Phil, and I'm here to explain to you what some of your options are for selling your home. And we're going to call these your best worst options because, unfortunately, for most Americans right now, there aren't a lot of great options for selling homes. And the reason for that is because for most people, they don't have a lot of equity in their homes. So let's just pick a home and say we're starting with a home that has a value of, let's say, $150,000. Now, I understand your house may be worth a lot more, a lot less. It really doesn't make any difference at all. I'm just picking an average price house. If your house is more expensive or less expensive, you can scale the numbers up or down accordingly. And let's say that this person owes, I don't know, $145,000. This is pretty typical for this particular seller. They have a tiny little bit of equity. Unfortunately, for most people, they have no or even negative equity. So even if you owe more or less, you're going to see that the options don't change a lot. The numbers change a little bit, but it's probably not going to draw you to any different conclusion. So if you want to sell your home today, you've got some different options. For most people, they want to sell their home quickly and they want to sell their home for as much money as possible. So they're going to look at their different options, and the different options have different trade-offs. Now, if you want to sell your home quickly, your best option might be to sell it to a cash buyer. And a cash buyer is going to buy the house quickly, but cash buyers, which are also known as investors, will typically pay a maximum of about 70% of the value of the home. And the reason is most cash buyers, and I know I'm a cash buyer and an investor, most cash buyers are buying houses because they want good deals for their cash and they may want to resell the property for a profit. So typically the most you'll sell to a cash buyer would be about 70% of value, which for this home would create an offer of, let's say, $105,000. Now, if you sell your house to a cash buyer, it does not affect your credit, so your credit is okay, and it's pretty fast. So the time it takes is going to be, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Very quick. But the catch is when you sell to a cash buyer, you're going to have to bring money to the table because the property is only worth $150, your offer was only $105, so you're going to have to bring the difference to the table. You owe $145, you got an offer of $105, so you're going to have to bring $40,000 to closing. And if you're like most sellers, you probably don't have or don't want to bring $40,000 to the closing table because that's very, very painful. So your next option is to list the home with a realtor. Now, I'm not a realtor, but I work with lots of realtors. I can certainly refer realtors out. And when you list your house with a realtor, the good news is that on average, it's going to sell for, let's say, full value, $150,000. Okay? And it doesn't affect your credit to sell a home through a traditional listing. What's the catch? The catch is right now we have anywhere from 6 to 9 months of inventory in the market. That's the statistical length of time that on average it takes to sell a house, 6 to 9 months. And because the house is worth $150 and you got an offer for $150 and you owe $145, you're going to have to pay closing costs and real estate commissions, buyer concessions. Typically it costs about 10%, which in this house would be $15,000 that you're going to have to bring to the table. Now you do have $5,000 in equity, so if you deduct the $5,000 out, it means basically you're going to have to bring $10,000 to the table. Now, that's better than $40,000, but it takes a lot longer, and it's still not a very good option. So for a lot of people at this point, they say, well, what else can I do? Well, you can do something called a short sale. And I know a lot about short sales. We've actually done over 1,000 short sales for people. And on average, when you sell a house through a short sale, the average short sale that is approved sells for about 90% of the market value. Because short sale buyers are going through a little more hassle. They're looking for deals. So they might offer, let's say, $135,000 for this house. Now, the problem with a short sale is it affects your credit. Your credit goes bad if you do a short sale. In fact, today, because there's a limited number of buyers that can get loans, and because the banks are so backlogged with all the short sales they're doing, more than half of short sales actually end up in foreclosure. So you have a 50-50 chance of doing and getting a foreclosure. How long does it take? Well, it could take 6 to 9 to 12 months. We just finished one that took 17 months. And the good news, though, is you don't have to bring any money to the table. So that's how a short sale works. Well, what are your other options? Well, you could do a foreclosure, right? And some people just say, well, let me just give the property back to the bank. Well, if you're going to just give the property back to the lender, you know, there is no offer, so it doesn't really matter. But the real problem here is bad, you know, bad. In fact, we call, and how long does it take? It doesn't really matter. And do you have to bring any money to the table? No. But unfortunately, we call a foreclosure, we call it the atomic bomb of credit hits. It is the one that takes the longest and cuts the deepest. It's a 10-year nightmare that starts with the lender foreclosing on you, the sheriff coming to you in your home and dragging you and your property and everything you own out onto the curb in front of the neighbors. It's 10 years of fighting deficiency judgments, possible 1099s, possible deferred judgments against you, creditors calling day and night. You could even have your wages garnished because of the 1099 from the IRS. You might not be able to buy another home, buy a car, in some cases rent an apartment, or even get a job for up to a decade. So I would really strongly advise that a foreclosure is not a very good option. And unfortunately, if you look at all of these options, there aren't any great options here, but there is one more option that I want to bring up, and this is something called a mortgage payment assignment. And in a mortgage payment assignment sale, you assign your mortgage payment to a buyer. Now, typically, because you're now selling the house with financing, typically a buyer will actually pay a premium. These houses sell faster and they sell for a premium amount of money. So the buyer is going to agree to take over the payments on your property. So they're going to buy it for the $145,000 loan because the payments continue to get made. Your credit is okay. The time it takes is typically 2 to 3 weeks. In fact, we have literally thousands of these buyers waiting anxiously to find homes that are available with financing, because right now there's literally millions and millions, in fact over 80 million people that no longer can get traditional financing because of the current underwriting standards. And when you sell with a mortgage payment assignment, you don't have to bring any money to the table. In fact, if you have equity, you might even make some money on this deal. So when you take a look at your different options, you know, what do we see here? Well, you know, your big problem selling it with cash is you've got to bring a lot of money to the table. In fact, if you list it, you also have to bring money to the table, and it's going to take a very, very long time. If you do a short sale, the big problem is it takes a long time and it hurts your credit. In fact, a short sale has about a 50-50 chance or greater of being a foreclosure. And a foreclosure is the worst option of all, because it is the atomic bomb of credit scores. But credit scars. But on the other hand, if you do a mortgage payment assignment, what's the deal? Doesn't affect your credit. It's as fast as selling for cash, and you don't have to bring any money to the table. So you can see that a mortgage payment assignment is actually a pretty good option when you compare it to all the other options that most people have. Now, I know everybody's situation is different. I tried to make this point earlier. Even if you have no equity, even if you owe more than it's worth, let's say you owe $155 instead of $150, or even owe $165, $170, it doesn't really matter. The numbers are going to change a little bit. If you owed $155, now you'd have to bring $50,000 to the table here. You'd have to bring $20,000 to the table here. But still down here, even though they're going to pay a little bit more for the house, and homes sold with financing will always sell faster and for a premium amount of money, all of the rest of the numbers stay the same. So whether you've got equity, no equity, or even negative equity, a mortgage payment assignment for many people, in fact for the majority of sellers these days, is their best of the worst different options that they have. So hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to find out more information about these different options, please explore the website. We've got a lot of information, questions and answers, and different kinds of resources available that fully explain these options in greater detail than I've had to go through, time to go through on this video here. Thank you.